Welcome to the LZ Sports Show, everybody. I am Mark Adam. I am here in the WPG Sports headquarters. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking Jets, Blue Bombers, Valour FC, all of that. First up, I should probably introduce you to my cohort. This is Mr. Keith McKnight, Jets correspondent. He's also going to be more and more into Bombers as I make him learn stuff. That's just sort of...
Yes, and more Valor and more Gold Eyes. Yes, and more technology, too. Yeah. More technology. Growing up with that one there, my friend. All thanks to you. Learning how technology's taken over the world.
Yeah. But I'm excited. We got sports coming up, and there's lots and lots and lots to talk about today. First and foremost, here in Winnipeg, there's going to be a Dale Hawerchuk Way. They're naming a street downtown after Dale Hawerchuk in honor of his memory, and they're doing a statue for him and all kinds of stuff. I'm very, very excited about that. What are your thoughts on Dale Hawerchuk and his legacy? I know you've been in Winnipeg for a lot longer than me, so there's a little more of a connection there for you. So why don't you tell our viewers about that?
So, I didn't really get to know too much of the history of Dale Hawerchuk until I started working at that radio station that had, I'm not going to name the name, but that had recently shut down. And Dale was one of us there when, he came in, it was only then I started to realize, just the impact he had on the city, the impact he had on the community, and how big it was. And then, since it's fresh in my memory right now, I just saw a Jets video about it. I think they opened up that video about his announcement of having the statue and way here, that there was a vintage clip of him coming out at Portage and Main, and they brought him in a Brinks security truck. I was like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. So
back to, the fact of, the city's going to be very excited. It's very well deserving, and especially for him to be the first, statue that's going to be downtown. Why not let it be him? He's the one who really put us on the map in the league, put us in a competitive spot, Jets 1.0. And, for anyone who doesn't know the history, all you got to do is type that name in and just realize, holy crap, excuse me there, this guy had a huge impact on the city. And I very, very privileged to have, shook his hand for that one time he was our guest there. And that's something I won't ever forget for sure. Class act for sure.
And I think everyone in Winnipeg will agree with you that he's a class act. He's been a part of Winnipeg sports culture for as long as I've been alive, essentially. And I'm not exactly a young pup anymore. But the just to be specific about it, it's going to be Graham Avenue between Carlton Street and Donald. That section of Graham Avenue to be renamed Dale Hawerchuk Way. Just so you know where we're talking about. And the statue they're talking about putting up would be in True North Square's what's the word? They're why am I blanking on such a simple word? It's
that's okay. True North Square. No, okay. I'm sorry. I can't
the plaza. That's the word I'm looking for. The plaza. Yeah. So I'm excited to see that happen. I think it's well deserved, as you said. Can you think of a more deserving legacy?
No, can't even. And you know what? And I don't think that there's going to be any sort of animosity or any sort of jealousy from anyone who hasn't, said oh, how come I didn't get one, blah, blah, blah. No, he's the guy who should be there first. And, everything will trickle down from here. Yeah,
they should rename the rest of the street Ducky Avenue, but whatever.
Ducky Avenue. Or, someone's going to name a restaurant after him. And I'm. What if there already is somewhere in his hometown? What if there is?
Isn't there? There's a Ducky's restaurant somewhere, isn't there? In town?
It's got to be.
Whether that's named after him or not, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there was a Ducky's restaurant or something in Winnipeg that I've seen. I haven't been here for my whole life, but I get around a little bit. I thought that was a very exciting, very fitting way to honor such a huge part of not just Winnipeg Jets history, but Winnipeg history. Because, Winnipeg, as we've discussed before on the show, Winnipeg is very much a Jets economy. And,
Oh, 100%. Look at my wall. Look at my gear. It's just, And then they even brought in the new heritage plates. So, everyone's going to jump all over that. And you never know. I had a basketball coach actually who supports the local sports scene so good here that he would have a Bomber plate during the season and a Jets plates during their season. I'm like, holy! So you never know. It might trigger some people, to change that up during the season.
That's an interesting way to do it, I suppose. I want a Valour FC plate. That's what I want. I'm a huge soccer fan. That's where my passions lie, even more so than hockey, which is pretty strong. So,
you should put in for it. I mean, you're at the games.
Well, I want them to make one. Why don't they make one?
Oh, well, no, what I'm saying is
you should suggest
plant it now. It's on the way. The fact that you're already talking about it, believe me, it's already in the works. It's already in the works. And if you could be the first one, I hope you are. Valour, so it'll be VFC 001, I guess.
Or whatever it is.
I'm calling it for you. I'm calling it for you. Mark Adam, first one right here.
I wouldn't be mad about it, let me tell you that. I know Ace Burpee was the first fan, or was the first allowed to buy his his season team membership. So
okay.
I was like 200 and something. So I still wouldn't be mad if that ended up being my plate. So that'd be totally cool. So yeah, that was just such a good thing for the city, in my opinion. Also there was some signings and whatnot for the Winnipeg Jets.
I can't,
some folks that we
can't pronounce his last name. Don't mean to cut you off there, but is it Sheshnikov? Is that who I had that as well?
I got
there was a mutual interest with that deal, but you go ahead though. It seems like I'm breaking your train of thought there, so I'll let you finish, my man.
It's all good. I'm looking at the non-roster folks because I'm looking for that guy. I don't have to see a contract for that, but no. Andrew Copp got signed for a 1-year contract. He's got 1 year to, as Zoner was saying in our chat there. We have a friend that joins us sometimes on the show. If you've seen before, his name is Neutral Zoner from Reddit. But
great writer.
He writes some very good stuff. Has some really, he looks at the game in a very interesting way. But he said that turns out Copp has a year to prove that he deserves that second line wing spot or second line spot.
He works hard, and you know what? If that's going to give him the opportunity, maybe that will implement, the mindset of all right, I got to take this seriously. I always like the basketball players, JJ Redick and Ray Allen. They always said that you try out every night. And you know what? And then maybe it's not a bad thing that Andrew Copp has a short-term deal, because it'll make him solidify himself, and as cliche as it sounds, cement himself into that second line winger. And with him coming off of the bench when they have to change lines, Andrew Copp is going to grow into a very highly dependable player. He likes being here. He plays very well. I don't think that there's anybody who is going to say that he doesn't. Right. When Andrew Copp is on the ice, the Jets have a great chance of not alone winning, but having to have a great game overall, because he's a good team guy.
He's got that Mark Scheifele mentality where he's like, I'll do whatever is needed. I'll do what I'm told.
Whatever is needed.
Right?
Exactly.
He'll play the role he's given, not the role he's trying to make for himself. He's got a lot of skill, but he's one of those players that's infinitely coachable, which makes him a great person to have in your dressing room, just in general.
100%.
So that's a thing. Andrew Copp signed to the 1 year, $3,640,000 for the 1 year, after which he'll be an unrestricted free agent. So if he chooses, he can bounce off to wherever he wishes. Paul Stastny, also an unrestricted free agent after this year, $3.75 million.
I love Paul Stastny.
I think a lot of people in Winnipeg do and would like to see him stay, but it's hard to sign him to any kind of an extended contract given his age. He's 35, right?
Yes, I know. And in professional sports, I remember when the late great Kobe Bryant turned 30 years old, and me and my friend John and I were talking. I'm like, man, Kobe's so old now. He's done, right?
And I look at these guys and I'm like, 35, that guy's washed up. And then I go, wait a minute, I'm 38. Jeez. It just Oh, well, it's my profession and their profession have very different demands on our bodies physically. So, You know,
Sure.
see how comfy my chair is? I love this chair. Anyway,
Yes.
it's not so hard to sit in, let me tell you. But
Not at all.
But yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, everybody loves Paul Stastny, but Andrew Copp getting just shy of what Paul Stastny is worth, I think, is completely like that. That makes sense to me. Like him and Paul Stastny, I would put them in the same sentence, no problem, right?
Sure. Oh yes. I don't want to forget it. I want everyone in Winnipeg to know, all their viewers, all their fans, DJ Blitz and Andrew Copp, very strong resemblance. Very strong resemblance.
Is this your conspiracy theories again?
It's not a hair one, but it's definitely a lookalike one for sure.
The doppelganger theory.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I hope one day I find my doppelganger. A lot of my family members have said, "Oh my God, that looks like you. That looks like you." And I was like, I don't really see it, but I don't argue with it, right?
I'll talk about it after, but I had a sighting that I thought was you that turned out not to be. But I'll talk to you about that after the show. Ask me off air because it's my brain was broken that day. Don't worry about it.
So back to sports.
Back to
So a
sports.
couple signings. Back to the signings there. They signed another defenseman as well. I saw in the morning papers based on illegal curve. But either way, the Copp one and the Pionk one, I know everyone's going to be happy about that because they really wanted to avoid arbitration. Those were two big headlines on NHL.com. So I was like, oh, shucks. Like, they really want to get this deal done here. So, and they did, right? And that's good. Those aren't two guys you want to waste time with, right?
So you're talking about Evgeny Svenchenkov. I can't pronounce his last name either.
Yes.
Why in my old age can I not pronounce people's names anymore? But anyway,
I hope that doesn't happen to you.
new information into my brain is rough. Considering I'm going to university starting September, which is something I didn't tell you yet.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Like you said, education is always important for ongoing.
Yeah, but now I can't even pronounce people's names properly that I see. Like, I'm worried about the amount of information that my brain will be able to absorb. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, there's mutual interest between the two. There has not been a signing as of yet.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so that's why it doesn't show up in any of the contracts. If you look at all the existing contracts, it isn't there because it doesn't exist.
Is that the same kid who played for Carolina and Michigan, Connor Hellebuck?
I mean, he was picked by the Red Wings.
So then, no, it's probably not the same guy, though. No, because this guy, because I saw the Red Wings jersey in the article. I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not the same. Maybe I'm mixing it up, like the last name.
He had 5 goals and 7 assists in 41 games with the Wings, but the Wings aren't a great team, so that's not a great.
The Wings do not like being a non-good team. I can just tell they're very frustrated. They're an organization that no matter, like they don't like to wait for success. And they've had.
Do you remember when do you remember when it was like the Detroit Russians at one point, like Sergei Fedorov, Kozlov, like every second name on the team ended with OV.
Yeah, Festistov. Yes, it was great. Oh my gosh. And we talked about this on the show last week that I was watching that documentary, and I'm still, you know what? Now that it's you telling me, I might watch it again because it was so good. These guys literally, like, what's it called? Darren McCarty. I think that's his name, right? He literally said that, these guys are like, hey, we're just going to play keep away. And, we're not going to work hard to give the puck away. Or it was Steve Eisman, one of the two guys that said that. And I'm like, well, you look at the way that they played, and it's like, wow, like that's what they did. That's what they did.
Yeah, they were, but they had so much skill. Like, and,
it's crazy because like the system in Russia is just as aggressive with the junior program as the Canadian junior program would be.
Yeah, and
right?
that
they get the kids early,
and they should, and that's how you develop that's as a hockey nation. The United States has taken on to let's get them as early as we can sort of strategy, and that's working for them too. Look at the success that the U.S. programs had, and the way that they've integrated it into their college system has, I think, really helped development as well, because you end up getting some players that, maybe they could have made the NHL a little earlier, but you give them that time to develop through the NCAA program, and they just turn out to be that much better on the other end. So there's something to be said for the way that the Canada does it. You can't argue with the success Canada has. And that we enjoy on a yearly basis, no matter what the tournament is. Canada's favored to win whatever tournament it is. If it's a hockey tournament and Canada's in it, Canada is the favorite. Basically every year.
Yes.
So
I agree with you, and I think all the viewers and fans would definitely agree with that.
So, but the young talent that the Jets have now, I wonder what the average age is. Be like what, 27 for the Jets?
I remember, you know what, not even to quote that, I remember I went to a Jets Open practice one of their first years that they came back, and their average age at that time was 23. So,
That's young.
I wouldn't doubt.
But they've added some vets, right? They brought in Paul Stastny. They brought, Blake Wheeler isn't getting any younger. He's 34 now. Riley Nash, 32 years old. Yeah, just trying to think of anybody else over 30. Nate Schmidt, Brendan Dillon, the two guys we signed.
Nate Schmidt's going to love playing here.
I think Brendan Dillon's going to have a good time too, to be honest. And Nate Schmidt's contract goes till the end of 24-25. Brendan Dillon's contract goes till the end of 23-24. I mean, it's...
Those are good players they brought in. I think a lot of people Brendan Dillon's a well-respected player.
And for $3.9 million a year, that's a good deal. Given his talent, and 3 years, 3.9, that's a good number, right? You can't argue with that. Neil Pionk signed for $5,875,000 a year for 4 years, and that speaks to how much they really wanted to keep Pionk. So 4 years at that price, can't argue with that. The guy's 26, so by the time his contract's over, he'll be 30. I can't be mad, right?
No, can't be mad at all. Can't be mad at all about that deal.
Pardon me, I was just coughing there. I muted my mic through the feed there. I didn't want to be coughing on my microphone whilst you could hear me. I've got my cup of tea here. Blah, blah, blah. There we go. But yeah, these contracts look great. I think we're in a great spot. Nikolai Ehlers signed for $6 million, which makes him 7.4% of the cap. The biggest cap hit, obviously, being Blake Wheeler, Kyle Connor, and Mark Scheifele. So 10.1, 8.8, and 7.5% of the cap hit, respectively. And Kyle Connor signed through the end of 25-26. That's huge. I'm wondering what's going to happen come 23-24 when that season ends and Scheifele and Wheeler become UFAs. At that point, Blake Wheeler will be 37 years old and Mark Scheifele will be 31.
Blake Wheeler is going to sign in Minnesota for his last year,
to play at home?
Just to play at home, yeah. And I don't think anyone's going to hold that against him because if he's going to play out his contract here. He's very happy about playing in Winnipeg.
He's not mad about being here. So why, there's no, there's 3 years. Lots can change in 3 years, but he's very happy to be here as it is. So,
yeah.
So
I don't know if I said this before, but he was a really good tail end in high school.
Yeah. I didn't know that about him. Maybe I did. Maybe you said that before. But
yeah, it's probably explains why he's got good hands.
He's just a very athletic, very strong guy. You would assume he'd probably be good at a bunch of different sports if he chose to be. You know what I mean? He's coordinated.
It's really
he's agile. He's flexible, especially for a 34-year-old.
I know. He had a good run with USA Hockey as well.
Yeah. What do we think of Dubois?
I like it. I really like it. I don't think that. I think the fans are a little bit like how I see Mark Scheifele, like we've waited a long time. I think Pierre-Luc Dubois with the fan base because he didn't really jump in there.
But it's not apples to apples. Pierre-Luc Dubois came in as a pre-existing player with expectations from another place, right? Whereas Scheifele came into our system right out of the get-go. Everybody's like, who's this guy? Drafted 7th overall. Like, what the heck? And then he turned out to be an amazing player for us and continues to be year after year, despite what Keith McKnight says. But Pierre-Luc Dubois came in with expectations already, so nobody's going to give him that time to get where he needs to be.
Okay, I appreciate you explaining it that way. Yes,
right?
thank you. Okay.
This guy, like Pierre-Luc Dubois, 23 years old, young guy, but, he had, in Columbus, he showed that he has the skill to be the guy if he needs to be the guy, and we haven't seen that here. But I think one more year at $5 million, after which he's a restricted free agent. I think we're in a good spot with him. I'm not mad about that contract. I'm not mad about him if he ends up signing again with us. Or I'm sorry, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Yeah, $5 million, restricted free agent afterwards. Okay, yeah, so we've just got one more year on his contract, at which point he's a arbitration eligible restricted free agent. So what I want to talk about is some of the guys that we already had in the lineup that we saw a couple of times with you. Christian Vesalainen signs an entry-year contract worth just shy of $900,000. 1 year, he's a restricted free agent afterwards, and the guy can play either wing, really. So what do you think of him? What do you think of David Gustafsson, who's got an entry-level contract as well, worth just over $800,000 for the 1 year? And then Dominic Toninato, he signed a $750,000 contract for 2 years. So what do we think about all of that? Talk to me, man. Let me know where's your head.
My head is definitely with those players as well. They're up and comers as well. So it's nice to see them, finally get a chance to prove themselves and to play here. I really like the Christian Vesalainen signing because, the Jets really showed a lot of interest in him. They showed a lot of hope as well. The David Gustafsson signing as well. It's going to put them in a position where, they'll have a variety of different players, on each lineup, and that'll be really good to see how they can create a good cohesive unit. So,
right. And then we also have some defensemen. So we're looking at, they're not in the lineup at the moment. Sami Niku is technically listed on the Jets roster, $725,000 for 1 year, after which he's a restricted free agent. I feel like he didn't really get a chance to show what he can do last year or the year before. I think we really haven't seen Sami Niku in any kind of a meaningful way yet.
No, I don't think we have either. And one of our fans, Alvin Garton, he really likes him. So hopefully he can get his opportunity here this season, and it'll be good. Things are getting back to normal, right? Like there's going to be a regular NHL season schedule, a regular season training camp. But what I mean by regular season, what I mean? It's going to the schedule will be normal, and the guys will just be jumping back into it. And, with the fans being able to get back, I think that's going to feed as well a lot of the energy for the players who want to make an impact and show that they belong to be here.
Yeah, there's just so much positive for next year. I'm very excited. What's your biggest, there's a bunch of things that happen. What's your biggest loss?
Whew. That's tough. I honestly don't know. I think I'm stumped on that one because, I just think it's all about the coaching staff here, right? And I don't think we lost anybody there because these guys know how to get the best out of these players. And I think the way things are going, I don't know. It's rather whoever they bring in, I just think will adhere to, sell out to the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. You got me stumped there. I don't know what would be considered the biggest loss because, no disrespect to the outgoing player, not saying that you suck or you're no good, but the Jets are making the right moves, I think, as well with who they want to bring in. And I don't know. You stumped. Maybe help me answer that question. I don't know.
Well, for me, Laurent Brossoit, I think losing him is a big deal because when you need to rest
Connor Hellebuck,
now all the weight falls on Eric Comrie's shoulders, and Eric Comrie's been in and out of this system how many times now? So
this is probably his third stint now with the Jets. Yeah.
So,
and like I have a bobblehead of his. So yeah, he was here for a while.
Speaking of bobbleheads, look what I brought down so I could show.
Oh, nice. Number 7. There it is.
Logan Stanley.
Everyone's pumped that he's here. He's pumped that he's here.
So, yeah, I got my Logan Stanley Manitoba Moose bobblehead.
I would have liked to see him and Tyler Myers on the defensive pairing. Oh, that would have been so good to see.
Yeah, another Twin Towers situation.
Like a 6'6" guy, for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think losing Mason Appleton is, I think, long-term going to be a big loss. I think we're going to see him have a lot of excess and wonder what if for a long time. What if we had kept this kid, right? I just think he plays in a very special way. I think he has the ability to be a very, very talented, late-blooming NHLer. You know, I think he's going to have a pretty decent career. And I'm sad to see that it won't be here in Winnipeg. But what do you think of adding Riley Nash?
I like that. So that was yes, because when I pulled up the headlines this morning, that was the other signing I saw in the top 3, right? I saw the Sheshnikov, Brendan Dillon. Yes, I like that one. I really do, the defenseman, because no disrespect to Brendan Beaulieu, like forget about the shoulder injury or was it upper body injury that he went out for the rest of the season.
Beaulieu, something about his shoulder, something or other.
No disrespect, man, but I just didn't really. I don't think the Jets he wasn't really producing. He wasn't really doing very much. So
but he's still a Jet technically for one more year, but he's only 1.25 mil for his contract. So it's kind of peanuts, right?
Yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's okay. We only have the one more year to deal with Beaulieu, and I thought he should have been one of the guys we got rid of during that, the trade deadline or something, like get rid of the guy, because for him, I mean, he's 28 years old. He's got some hockey left in him, but the way he plays doesn't match the way Winnipeg plays, if that makes sense.
I love the way you're going with that, because I really couldn't answer it, because there's more to it than him just not fitting into the system. Like, you got to dig deeper than that.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. I agree. And if they only have him for 1 year, I wouldn't be surprised if they just traded him away come before the trade deadline, just to, shake things up. Because if they only have to deal with him for 1 year, it's like how many times do you think he'll really play this year? Like, what if he doesn't even come out from this injury until closer to like Christmas or something? Like, you never know.
That's very true. That's very true. That never even occurred to me. So, I mean, he may, but I mean, Brian Little's sitting on the LTIR right now as right?
I forgot that name. Whoa.
So that's the thing. He's still technically a Jet, and I don't even know when the last game he played was, but I know it's been a while. So he doesn't count towards the cap hit because of being on the long-term IR, but it's a thing.
It's a thing. So he's still here, and I know that he's another fan favorite.
He is. People love him. It's crazy. So I would love to see him back, but he's 33 years old. He's not getting any younger. He's been hurt for so long. Can he even play the same way he did before? Like, chances are the answer is no. So that'll be sad to see. But I thought Riley Nash was a good ad. Didn't he, a couple of years ago, didn't he score like the goal of the year or something like that with the between the legs?
Like, yes, he did something
top
like
corner thing.
Insane. He probably pulled a Connor McDavid when Connor McDavid, I think, beat Ben Bishop when he knew they were playing against the Dallas Stars. He just, and then it was just, and I was like, whoa, these guys actually have the time to do that in the NHL? Is that good?
I've done it in pond hockey. Like, when you have time.
Exactly.
Right?
You have a lot of time to try things out because the game's not so fast out there. It's crazy.
You and I were out at Dakota Complex one day playing hockey, and I think I did it a couple times just for fun to see if I could. And I'm like, yeah, I could. But there was no defenseman chasing me. It wasn't high pressure, shootout or penalty shot sort of situation and all that. But anyway, The guy's got skills, is my point. So for $750,000, yes, the guy's 32 years old, but for $750,000 for 1 year contract, after which he's unrestricted free agent again, it really feels to me like, obviously he's being a bit of a rental player, but we're renting him ahead of time so that we can make this run. It looks like this team is stacked for a cup run. What do you think?
I agree, because they ran into a hungry Montreal team.
Yes.
Let's just put it that way. Because the Montreal Canadiens, they came back to beat a team in the first round when they were down 3-0, was it? And they come back from that, and I got to quote Alvin on this. We were having a conversation around that playoff game time, and he said what the Canadiens need to do is get as hungry as they were when they were beating the Leafs. And I said, whoa, and if they can find a way to do that, they can beat this Jets team. They can beat this Jets team. And that's no disrespect to the Jets. I'll quote a bodybuilding, what's it called? A meme. What are the kids calling those things, right? It says the wolf climbing the hill is a lot hungrier than the wolf that's on top of the hill. And that's the vibe I got from the Montreal Canadiens, and they came out and they played just like that. So I feel that when the Jets ran into the Canadiens, they're like, okay, we just ran into a really good team. They can beat this team. I know they can beat the Habs. And with the way that they're built now, I honestly, like you said, I think this team is not alone poised for a cup run. I really think they're really gearing up right now to really make a deep cup run, and they'll be very disappointed. I really think the Jets will be very disappointed as a team if they don't make it to the conference finals. And that's you can't put that past them. You can't put that past them. They deserve to be there.
They've got the squad, but then again, 32 teams this year that are all going to be vying for those same 4 spots that you're talking about. So I think the Jets have to be happy with the success they had last year, given the type of season it was, the big asterisk next to the season with 56 games instead of the full 82, and such a compressed schedule, and games moving around because of rescheduling and postponements and all of this stuff.
That's right. There were a lot of postponed games.
What a weird season. And that put a lot of teams at a disadvantage that otherwise might have, Montreal could have been a better team, believe it or not. But they were ravaged by COVID through the season. They struggled really hard. They did get their poop in a group just in time to hit the playoffs on their, while on their feet, which was great for them. And we saw a lot of success come out of that. But imagine if they hadn't been interrupted. Imagine if their flow had been just straight through. How much better of a team could they have been? How much more conditioning could they have had they not gone through everyone going through this whole COVID situation? Because it's a respiratory illness. It's really hard on your system, hard to recover from, especially at a professional athlete level, at the $1 million level that these guys are playing at. Do you know what I mean? It would have. I just think
so hard.
Completely different year, but Jets have to take that this season, that last season, as okay, that's a step in the right direction. Now we've added some pieces that we really were missing, Nate Schmidt, for instance, and Brendan Dillon. So we're shoring up the defensive side, which has been the big question mark in Winnipeg, all season, and a couple years before that. Basically, since Buff left, it's been a big question mark, our defensive end.
I know, and it's on his Wikipedia, it doesn't say former NHL hockey player. It says is a unrestricted free agent. So I don't know if he'll ever come back.
I don't know if he wants to play.
At
this point, do you think he's doing the same amount of work to keep his conditioning level at the NHL professional level? Given his age, given how much priority he puts on his family and making sure that he's there for them, I really don't think that he's.
I don't hold that against him. Dustin Byfuglien came in here already with the Stanley Cup ring.
True, but he also ingratiated himself to the people to the point that he's not even playing, and people in Winnipeg, or when you see them online or whatever, they're sharing pictures of Byfuglien being like, look how happy he looks. It's just him holding a big fish. You know what I mean? They're just happy he's happy, which is a wonderful thing, because a lot of sports franchises, when a player leaves like that, remember Cleveland?
Yes.
When LeBron left, people burning
Oh.
jerseys and
Oh my
like
God, that was sad.
like they vilified him. But that
Yeah,
didn't
but
happen with Bufflin. Everybody was just like, we miss Buff. Like that's that's the attitude around town, you know?
right?
So,
And I remember that quote you had. You were speaking with, I think it was on Reddit or something, and you put it up. You basically based off with our thread here, Winnipeg's Winnipeg, sorry, the LZ Sports Show, and you said how about a Dustin Bufflin statue? And I think it was you or someone got into a conversation. Says only if it's a statue where he's
always in the
handling
corner,
those.
yeah, manhandling two people at once, yeah.
Yeah, I believe that was against the Colorado Avalanche. I was like, oh my God, like to see that, like, and I'm not even trying to like brag because like, you know, to have press box access at that time and being able to see that game, I was like, whoa, this is actually happening. Dustin Bufflin just grabbed two people and he's ready to take both of them on. He wasn't like,
it wasn't just like, hey, come here. It was, hey, come here. And would you like to go? It was very much, yeah, I remember that. That was crazy. I miss Buff, but anyway, we're getting into the softer side of hockey,
I know,
like how we feel about our players. But yeah, I think Riley Nash is a great ad. I think Gustafsson and Vesalainen each having entry-level contracts with bonuses attached if they hit certain criteria. I think there's a lot of potential here for a cup run on the defensive end. Again, Josh Morrissey, Winnipeggers love the guy. The guy's contract goes until the end of 27, 28 at this point. So by the time he gets out of here, he'll be 34 or something. I don't know. He'll be old.
He'll be old in hockey
terms. Yeah. But people around town love Josh Morrissey, Jomo, as they call him online, you know, so Jomo, Pomo. Yeah. It's a thing. Jomo, he gets a lot of love from the fans. I felt like he really underproduced this past season.
I did too.
I feel like he was not the weakest defenseman we had for sure, but certainly not the strongest, not the guy getting paid the most. You know, he wasn't playing the way he's been paying. So.
I like where you're going with that little tongue twister there. It's kind of true. It's kind of true.
But adding Nate Schmidt now, I think that's a big deal. I think Brendan Dillon and Neil Pionk's contracts are good, considering the value. I mean, Neil Pionk was one of my favorite defensemen this year. Like one of the smaller guys on the team, still smashing people like he's Bufflin. Like he's just he throws more hits than anybody, and he's definitely like he's the fifth biggest guy on our defense. So,
he's not afraid.
No fear, good stick skills, great hockey sense and where to be. I thought against Connor McDavid, Neil Pionk was the most effective defenseman we had. And that's the best offensive player coming at you. You want your best defenseman on him. And in my opinion, that was Neil Pionk. And I really liked the way that he played against McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
I really enjoyed that. I really did.
They say offense sells the tickets and defense wins the championships. I'm sure the Jets would rather, win a game 1-0 than, lose a game
or like those 6-5 matches we had with Edmonton. Those back and forth.
And then oh my God, the analogies you were bringing out of that. Oh my God, like the Jets are just like, they have, if they're not leading in. What was it? What you said was not when they scored first, but when they're going into the third period or something, they always lost.
I don't remember the stat now.
Yeah, I know.
You'll have to go back to one of the old episodes to watch it.
To the archives.
To the archives. Yes. I don't know why that required a German accent. I don't know why it did it, but doesn't matter.
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
But Connor Hellebuck, I'm happy with him staying here. 6.1. Well, yeah. Listen, $6,166,666 a year. Why so many sixes, people? That's 6 sixes in his 7-digit contract. But we got him for 3 more years. He's a UFA come the 24-25 season. So Connor Hellebuck, Vezina-buck, as the fans here call him. I thought he had a great year. That 7-game slump cost him the Vezina.
Yes, it did. We did talk about that he was not performing, and as a player who potentially could have repeated as winning that trophy or earning that trophy, it's better because you don't win that trophy, you earn it, and that 7-game slump really put him. It's like okay, I don't think so, and then on top of that too, just to go off topic from Connor Hellebuck, did you know that the NHL released publicly all of the voting for each award this year?
I did not see that.
Yes, I'll find that link again for you because our good friend down in Coon Rapids, Dr. Kumar Ramnath, who just loves our show, he saw that too, and I'm gonna have to look at that, and you're gonna find it interesting. Like a lot of people we know in the city voted. It's great who got a vote for this. It's crazy. Like I've never seen a league do that. The only league I've seen they didn't release the names of how many votes for the NBA MVP award, but they released how many first place votes, second and third place votes they got, but they didn't release the names who voted. So I thought that was really interesting that the NHL did that.
That is interesting. Now, after you get off air, you have to send me the link.
I will find that for you. Yes, I will actually do some homework.
Yeah, I'll send you away with some homework. Yeah, I think the Jets are in a great spot this year, is my point, looking at all this. So, biggest contract, largest contract for forwards, Blake Wheeler all the way down to Jansen Harkins. Harkins has a 1 year, $7.25 million, or $725,000 contract. $7 million for Jansen Harkins. Not yet, young man. But $725,000 for a year for him, after which he's a restricted free agent. That's a good spot to be. I thought when he was on the ice, he was great this year. He brought a lot of that I'll do whatever you need kind of energy. And that's what I love about this team. And that's another reason why, getting rid of Patrick Laine at the start of last year, for me, made a lot of sense. He does not have the I will do whatever the team needs attitude. He has a give me the puck at the top of the circle and make sure I can hit it in one time. Otherwise, he becomes a lot less effective.
I don't, maybe I could be wrong about this. It struck me as he always just wanted to be set up in one spot, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to work for the puck. He wanted you to work for the puck. He will work for the spot that he's going to be in, but once he's in that spot, give me the puck.
That's it. Don't wait.
And as skilled as he is, and as much as I like him, he's a good hockey player, and he's probably going to have some success in his career for sure going forward. He was just a very one-dimensional game. He just didn't have, if they figured out how to mark him for that game.
Yes.
He wasn't very adaptable on the fly,
The way that I saw him. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was just frustrating watching him, and then he gets frustrated because people are poking passes away because they can read the pass because he's standing in one spot waiting for the pass. So
even in pickup hockey, you can't do that. You got to move around. It's crazy.
Yeah, you got to adapt. Okay, they figured this maneuver out, so let's try something else. Maybe I take the puck and I don't shoot it right away. Maybe I go behind the net and feed it to somebody else. He just doesn't have that adaptability that somebody like Nikolai Ehlers has, or Jansen Harkins, or Kyle Connor. These guys, when something isn't going their way, they find a way to change what they're doing to confuse and or avoid the defense of the other team. And Patrick Laine just didn't have it. And that's why I love guys like Jansen Harkins, because he'll go out and he'll do what you need. He'll grind in the corners. He'll do whatever. He just wants to contribute. So happy to have him there.
One thing that I noticed with Patrick Laine, and I'm a huge Evander Kane fan, and I'll take the heat for that.
You should. You should. I should mute you right now for saying that.
Okay, you like this photograph right here? Evander Kane, Jets, right here. Okay, so anyways, one thing I did notice with Evander Kane, even before all of the dislike and all the negative press and everything about him, the one thing I noticed about Evander Kane in my first 2 years of covering the Jets was this guy just hangs out at the blue line and he just waits for the puck. I was like, dude, you can't do that. And it's I find that him and Patrick Laine kind of played the exact same game, just kind of in a different position. You know what I mean, right? Because he would just wait at the blue line. Patrick Laine gets in the zone, waits for it at that one spot, and then I was just like, come on, Evander, because he doesn't play that way in San Jose. And I was like, dude.
Well, that style of play shouldn't fly anywhere.
And that's what I mean. I was like, and me as a fan, I'm sitting there and I was like, why every time you're on this, all you do is you just literally get to the blue line and you just like put your stick down and you're just waiting for a pass, thinking somebody's just going to give it to you there. Like, dude, I'm a fan of you. Don't get me wrong.
And
but
listen, I started with a soft spot for Evander Kane. His uncle used to come into my bar when I was in Halifax all the time, and I was like, because I used to be the general manager of a bar in Halifax, but he used to come in all the time to watch the Atlanta Thrashers games because we had the center ice package and he didn't have it at home. So whenever the Thrashers wasn't on Hockey Night in Canada or, TSN, which was all of the time basically, he would come into the bar and watch the game there. And so because of this, I developed this soft spot for Evander Kane. But then I started actually paying attention to him and his career and stuff like that. And I was like, I immediately stopped being a fan. I don't like the way he plays. The drama he caused off ice was 10 times worse than anything he did on ice. And he absolutely needed to go. But to your point, even Evander Kane moved more than Laine.
Okay. Wow. So that's what I mean. Like, this was definitely just, I love where you're going with this because we were just really trying to say like the way that they both played. And I can't believe that's crazy that you think that Evander Kane moved more. And I'm like, not even challenging you on that.
But that's a scathing review of Laine more so than a positive review of Kane. Like, because Kane did some lazy stuff. I agree with you, but even Kane did more of his own puck work than Laine was willing to do. So, and I like Laine. I'm not even saying I don't. Like, off ice, the guy was nice. He kept his mouth shut when he could have made a big media crap storm about how he was being treated in the dressing room and this, that, and the other thing. And he didn't. He waited until he was traded out, and then he's like, yeah, so here's the deal. Like, trying not to speak too ill, but he's just like, I just didn't feel well treated, and it just wasn't, I didn't feel comfortable there. I wanted out, kind of thing. So,
one thing too, and I found this very interesting with Europeans, and you're going to like this, and even the Russian players, okay? I'll use Ilya Kovalchuk for an example. One thing even Pavel Bure, this is perfect.
Pavel Bure, you went from Ilya Kovalchuk to who absolutely, I think, screwed his NHL career over, to Pavel Bure, who was one of the best. So I'm very interested.
Oh, sweet. This is going to be I'm going to call you later today so you can give me this story because this is going to be good. One thing I found with a lot of the European-based players and even like the Russian ones, they always play on teams that have easy connection flights to Europe. And I love that about it. Like, right? Pavel Bure plays in Vancouver. It's a skip and a hop. It's just like, he could potentially travel, like maybe take one flight, maybe to Budapest from Vancouver at that time, and then get home. Or no, Budapest is way further than Russia, right? Because Russia's right there. So then and then then he went down to Florida. Then I was like, it's a skip and a hop the other way. And I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. It's just a little bit of a trend, It's just a bit of a trend. Not so much. Maybe the Russian 5 didn't see it that way. That's okay. But yeah, I found a lot of overseas players play on teams that have it's like a coast. Like, look out, Ilya Kovalchuk got drafted by the Thrashers, right? They're right down there, down south on the coast of whatever ocean that may be. And then he goes and he plays in New Jersey, and then he plays in LA, right? And then he had a stint in Montreal. And Montreal, I remember going to New York, they connected us through Montreal because, it's a big airport, a lot of international connections. So yeah, now I'm just ranting here. I just find it interesting that a lot of Russians and Europeans always play on teams that are close to water.
Interesting. That I feel like that goes into the conspiracy theory pile somehow. I don't know why. It just maybe because you said it. I don't know.
Conspiracies with Keith. We're on to something here. We're on to something.
All right.
Here.
So we've gone over the entire roster of the Winnipeg Jets for next year. I really think that they're going to have some success. I think Cheveldayoff, after the trade deadline, he was a little bit. People weren't happy with how he dealt with that, but I think, can you argue with the results now, given that we had a pretty good run? second round of the playoffs is nothing to sneeze at. And now look at the team we've got stacked here for this run in the 21-22 season. Pretty exciting. The NHL starts October 12th. So that's a few months away, but the players are obviously getting prepped for that as it is. The other thing I wanted to talk with you about was that Bomber game. The Bombers won their opener against the Ticats, and then they ran over another team, the Toronto Argonauts, in what was not the prettiest game.
You mentioned that the coaching staff was not too impressed with the way the victory came in. But on a positive note, they don't ask how, they ask how many.
True.
And the Bombers won. The Bombers won. Come on, you got to take a W, right? You got to be positive about a W.
And even the coaching staff said that they're happy with the 2 points, but they're not happy with the game. Ed Tate called the game a grimy defensive slugfest, which I thought was an interesting way to sort of look at that. The coaching staff is going to be happy with the 2 points, but there's a lot that they're going to need to work on. What was the quote? O'Shea said, "We're happy with the win and the 2 points, and then from there we'll make sure we're diligent in how we look at the film and how we move forward from that," because they weren't happy with a lot of things. Zach Caleros even said, "We left some points out there that really could have put the game out of reach," and when you have an opportunity to put a team away and you don't, and you let them linger, that's when you can potentially lose games, and that's not how you want to run your team through the course of this season, where you're seeing the same teams over and over again. It's extremely important to discourage them from scoring points whenever possible. But it's they just couldn't put points on the board. Local boy Oliveira didn't get as many yards as he did in the previous game. I think he broke 100 in the last one, but the Argos held him to 29 yards on 13 carries, so he didn't get a lot of.
Yeah, that's not a lot of yards with the opportunities. The 13 carries. Ooh, yes. Now I see where you're going. Right, numbers never lie.
Right.
Yes, numbers never lie. Women lie, men lie. Numbers don't.
Well, hey, numbers can if you do the math wrong. But Winnipeg managed 53 yards on the ground total for the whole game, so 2.9 yards per carry on average. That's not awesome. However, Caleros threw 32 for 40, so 32 completions on 40 attempts, and he threw for 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, one interception. And overall, the team really came together, and they had some key takeaways that really helped them to at key points of the game. But that was not the game that they want to play when you're leaving potential points on the field. You march up the field and then you don't end up converting. That gives them the opportunity to come back and make the game just that much closer. So they're going to go look at that and organize themselves. Very excited to see what the rest of the season looks like. The next game for the Bombers will be.
Isn't it this Friday in Calgary?
It'll be the 21st in Toronto.
In Toronto, okay.
Yeah, Calgary will be back here on the 29th. So that's like
I knew that. Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, you could tell. I did look at. I mixed that up. Thank you.
So Calgary will be visiting. That'll be the next home game. Is Calgary. So that might be where you got confused, because their next game is actually away. On next Saturday at 3 p.m, Winnipeg time. They'll be in Toronto to play the Argonauts. So it'll be a rematch of this week's game, and hopefully they'll end up with a similar result, but have a little bit more positive to come out of that. So got to get the offense clicking a little more. The defense has absolutely shown up so far for the Bombers, giving up in 2 games just 13 points. So
13 points in 2 games. That's
nothing
impressive.
to sneeze at. If you're their defense, that's pretty good. And they penalty-wise, they didn't. I think they only had like 6 penalties in the whole game for 65 yards worth of penalties. I have to look that stat up, but yeah, it was. Hold on, where did we go? Yeah, six penalties for 65 yards, and they only gave the ball up twice, only 2 turnovers. They managed to turn the ball over for themselves 4 times. So, they won the turnover battle. They were pretty disciplined overall, and they end up with the win, 20-7. It sounds like a bit of a rout, but it was a little more complicated than all that. But at the end of the day, they're going to take those 2 points, take that confidence, go to the video, figure it all out, and then come back stronger the next week, right? So, yeah. What did you have anything else to add about the Bombers here? What you're hoping to see this year or anything like that?
I wouldn't put it past them if the Bombers found a way to repeat again. Like, they have the opportunity to do it. They have the roster to do it. And if they're already taking these 2 games seriously, where they want to find a way to separate themselves from the competition and, be like, okay, look, there's good teams and like we're with the good teams and like there's bad teams and there's 50 feet of crap and we don't want to be there, right? Yeah. They want to be right here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think this team has any interest, especially being Mike Krzyzewski, head coach Mike Krzyzewski, no, I apologize there, says you can't defend what you don't have. So, right, like the Bombers don't really have the title of this year. They had the title of last year. So I'm sure that they want to contend again for it and be the winners of this trophy, and they're going to have to play like champions.
Well, a good sign is that they won this game, but they weren't happy with how they won it.
I know it's almost like the energy that we're talking about. You almost think they lost.
Well, yeah, well.
Right?
I know what you're saying.
The way that they're taking it.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like it's a tough thing to do to win a championship and then win it again. It's very tough. But they are taking this season very seriously, as if what they're doing is basically forgetting the fact that they're defending champs, because you got to remember too, that was 2 years ago. There was no season last year. So technically nobody was champion last year. So if I'm the Bombers, that's the mentality I'm going to take, where, I want nobody to have won last year. We're not the champs. We need to go earn this. We can't rest on our laurels. And when you look at a game like that and you go, okay, we won, but we weren't happy with how, that shows you they're really interested in being the best team, not only in the league, but the best team that they can be. They've won 2 games. They're 2-0, which now puts them on a 6-win streak overall if you go back to the previous actually played season. And I think that makes them 13-1 at IG Field since 2018. Do you know what I mean? Like, when they play at home, they are strong. And that was one of the huge reasons they won the Grey Cup this year. Or 2 years ago, I should say. Like, that's why they're defending champs. But they're proving again that they weren't just hanging out, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a season to start. They are ready to go. 20-7, and they're not happy with that win. I'm happy that they're not happy, because that means they're going to work even harder. And when they play Toronto, next week, next Saturday, they should. What is that going to be? 42-7? Who knows?
You never.
Who knows?
Exactly.
But
they got the game plan now, right?
Right, and their defense looks great. I'm really happy about that. So if they can hold on, I'll be quite happy with any kind of success. But to your point, if they repeat, Winnipeg they're going to throw multiple parades, and it'll be a whole thing.
It's going to be on fire.
Yeah, right. Like, people are already rocking the Blue Bomber Grey Cup champion license plates. We brought up the license plates earlier from the Jets, but the Blue Bomber plates are the ones that you see most around the city now, because they're all fresh and neat, and they look really nice. And everybody sort of jumped on that. Holy crap, we got this. See, there's a lot of support for the Bombers in town. They played in front of 22,000 people, right? and you have to be
Wow.
double vaxxed to get in.
So that means a lot of people did it up.
People are literally getting vaccinated so they can see sports teams. Like, some people are like, I wasn't going to get vaccinated, but they wouldn't let me go to the Bomber game. Like, there's people who are like that, and that's awesome. And so first of all, get vaxxed. It's good for you. It's good for everybody around you. It isn't just about you. It's about keeping everyone safe. So get vaxxed. That's the first thing. Sorry to be a little political there on that moment, but the other thing is, if you want your sports team to be successful, you got to keep supporting them, and Winnipeg is absolutely all about that. So this has been the first half of the LZ Sports Show for this Sunday, August 15th. I was joined by Keith McKnight, and I am Mark Adam. We will be right back after this message from our sponsor with my guest Curtis, who is a CPL YouTuber, and we're going to be talking Valour FC and other CPL topics. Stick around. We'll be right back after this. Thanks for joining me, Keith. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We've been delivering complete customer satisfaction for over 40 years. Whether it's a fully completed backyard escape, a completely renovated bathroom, or a premium upgrade on outdoor furniture, Aquatech is the only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
We are back. I've got my guest here. This is Mr. AFC Curtis. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you, Mark?
I am doing all right. I'm just putting your name up here just because I forgot to type it in ahead of time. So there you go. Boom. AFC Curtis. Look at that.
Perfect. There you go. Official now.
Man, if only I had an assistant that could run all this for me, that would be amazing. But who's got the time? That's what I say.
I know, right?
But welcome to the show. So yes, you can hit him up on Twitter, or YouTube or Instagram. I think all of your handles are the same, right? Mm-hmm. At AFC Curtis. AFC, explain that part.
Yeah, so when I was thinking of a name, I couldn't think of a good name, and I was like, well, I don't want to do something that's related to the Canadian Premier League, because what if I branch out and go beyond the Canadian Premier League and cover, other leagues and stuff in world football? So that's what kind of led me to thinking, I got to do something that's not geographically specific, I guess. And I don't know, for some reason I just thought of how about just Curtis FC, but I was like, no, that just seems too basic, obviously being a football club. So I was like, you know what, let's do AFC Curtis. That just sounds different, sounds unique and cool to me. So that's how I came up with it. And then fun fact too, I literally got inspiration to make my logo based off my Jurgen Klopp shirt I'm literally wearing right now. So
well, there you go. Awesome. So if you don't know, the guy knows his stuff when it comes to the CPL. I had the pleasure of sitting relatively near you in the press box during the bubble. So that was great to get that side and have somebody that actually knew what was happening on the field. Some of the guys that were up there doing stats and stuff were just yelling things, and that's not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not what you want to be yelling.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But not everybody is quite as into the subtleties of the game as others. So I would consider myself pretty up on the subtleties, and I know you know your stuff. Hence why I have invited you to be a guest on the show. So
thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about the table at the moment. Pacific at the top, Atletico Ottawa at the bottom. Are you surprised by any of the placements of any of the teams at this point?
At this point, what are we they're almost halfway done the season already.
We're working on halfway, crazy. Yeah.
12, almost there.
12 or 11 games played, depending on the team at the moment. So,
yeah. I mean,
on a 28-game season, just so people have a reference.
Yeah. For me, to be honest with you, not. I mean, other than maybe York United being like 5th. Everybody else is pretty much where I thought they would be.
And you thought York United would be worse or better?
Worse. Like toward like in my season preview video I did back in June, I actually picked them last, but I think everybody did, just because they had so much going against them. It's just weird that a team like Atletico Ottawa, who had the longest preseason out of anybody, like they had like 3 months before the season even started.
They had Atletico Madrid money.
They did, and they're last place. Like it's like I don't understand. Like if maybe it's politics, maybe it's not the right coaching. But I don't know if you've been watching any of the games this season, but they just don't seem to be like. I didn't think they're title contenders. Okay, they're still building. People in Ottawa don't hate on me, but I did not think that they would be this bad, and it just seems like
they were the last team to join. There were 7 teams the first year, right?
Yeah.
So we had the 7 teams in year 1. That was 2019, 2020. That year was the Island Games, so that wasn't really a season. So technically,
like a tournament.
This is Ottawa's first full season as a CPL squad. So
yeah. So and I feel like last year you can have the excuse, well, they started like essentially 2 months before the season was going to kick off last year. So they really only had like 2 months to build, where everybody else had like a year and a bit to build. So, last year is kind of like, okay, last year let's just be happy that there's football for them. But this season, it's like you had you had essentially the last 10 months of last year to build for this year. You had this entire season, or this entire calendar year, which season kicked off pretty much the last 6 months of 2021. So you had the first 6 months of this year to build. You had a 3-month training camp to kind of see what works, what doesn't work. You also have Atletico Madrid there, which have deep scouting networks, deep pockets. Yes, there's a salary cap, but I'm sure player signing bonuses don't really factor too much into salary caps, and all these other deals they can kind of do on the side. So, I mean, I just don't understand how they're last place. And you think a team connected to Atletico Madrid would be major ballers, you know what I mean? And be contenders every year and push to be contenders every year. But it's almost like kind of like the New York City FC thing with the MLS, where they're owned by Manchester City pretty much, but it's just like they're not contenders. It's just like I don't know what it is. It's like, is this just a tax write-off for them or something? I don't know.
It's not like, and you go to New York City FC, they had some great players. It wasn't like they were a crappy team. They just couldn't get their poop in a group. I don't know.
What do you think is their problem this season?
Was Atletico?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're relying too much on specific key players instead of playing a full-on team strategy. Like they're like, well, we have some talent. Let's let them just do their thing. That doesn't win you stuff. Ask the Edmonton Oilers, right? Having 1 or 2 key guys doesn't make you a team, especially in soccer where you got 11 guys out on the field at any given time. They all have to contribute. They all have to be doing their part. And I think they've got some significant weaknesses in certain areas. And I think they're not playing a full team strategy. They're trying to work around these weaknesses and ignore that they have weaknesses. I don't know. It's frustrating to watch them. As you said, like they went over to Spain to train for months. Like they have nothing but advantages. They're the most advantage of any club in this league, and they are at the bottom of the table. So there's something, and I think when you lose that many games in a row, the dressing room starts to become part of your problem too. People blaming other guys and being upset with other guys, and I think there's just a huge lack of chemistry in that entire organization.
100%.
Right? So that's and again, I'm outside looking in. I'm not going to be an expert on Ottawa by any stretch of the imagination, but from the outside looking in, they've got to sort out their chemistry, their strategy, and work out, where are the holes, and stop working around them and start fixing them. So
100% agree. Yeah.
But I feel the same way about Halifax as well. They should be a much better team, I think, than they are. Sitting second last, they're literally 1 point ahead of Atletico that we were just crapping on. So, like, Halifax needs to do better as well. And I maybe I'm a little biased because I'm from Halifax originally, but I want to see them succeed. I want all the teams to play better, because when you have better soccer, it's just more entertaining just in general. It's no fun if you're watching Pacific beat everybody all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fun for a season or two, but eventually you're just like, yeah, who cares? Of course they're going to win. Like, there's just, you lose that. You want that competitive edge. You want that parity across the league. Rob Gale has been quoted as saying there is great parity in this league, and that is one of the only statements he's made, that I completely disagree with. Mm-hmm. I do not agree that there is a ton of parity in this league. I am surprised that Forge isn't doing better, given their track record, two championships in a row, the only team to win the championships. Didn't they just beat a team in the CONCACAF League though?
Yeah, they beat I can't remember either. But from El Salvador, yeah. The best club in El Salvador too. Yeah.
Well, that whole league is the best club from every league, right? So, so they're going to have some success there. I feel like they maybe have focused too much on extracurriculars and not as much on the actual league itself. It's like, yeah, we get to go play in the Champions League and all this, and so they get extra games, they get extra this, they get extra that. But their performance within the league itself has been hit or miss. I think they're the only team left that hasn't drawn.
Yes, Forge, yeah, they are.
Because it was Valour and Forge, I think, were the only two teams that hadn't. It was wins or losses. There were no draws until they drew with Edmonton the other day.
Yeah, 100%. That's which is so funny, so classic Valour too. The last 2 years, they've been the last team to get a draw. I swear to God. But then you got York United. It's like they're just. I'm pretty sure if you go through the stats, York United has the most draws in CPL history. I'm pretty certain of that. I'd put money on it.
That's an interesting. I would like to see that stat too. But yeah, that's odd. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's so weird. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe Rob's just one of those guys that you have to go all out whether you win or lose. There's no draws. We have to get the full 3 points, and then trying to sacrifice some stuff to try and get that 3 points. That kind of leads to weaknesses that the opponents exploit. That leads to losses. That's the only thing I can explain.
Pete Carroll. Does that name mean anything to you? Are you an NFL fan?
I was, until the Patriots kept on winning all the time. Kind of the parity issue we were just talking about. Yeah, I do know who Pete Carroll is.
I think it'll be a while before the Patriots win anything else. But anyway, the Pete Carroll, who is the Seattle coach, is best known for his college career as a coach. And the college game is very much win at all costs, go big or go home. Whereas the NFL is a lot more measured. But when he came to the NFL, he brought to Seattle that very same attitude of we're going to win or we're not going to win. We're not playing for a tie. We're not playing for overtime. We're going to go for the touchdown. We're not going to settle for the 3-point field goal to tie the game. We're going to go for it. He's got that attitude. And I feel like that's Rob Gale's mentality too, which is go for broke. If we don't win, we'll win the next one. But, obviously that hasn't been the case in the last 5 games. But the road trip Valour just got back from, first road trip of the year, they were the team that was lucky enough to host the bubble, had a lot of success, 6 of 8 wins there. But now they're on a 5-game winless streak, including 4 straight losses, and the most recent game was a draw. I really don't think they should have lost that first game against Edmonton. Edmonton, got lucky with 2 of their goals. And, I mean, they did score a nice one. But Valour has stopped producing on the offensive side. And that has been the difference. What has been your observations as far as that sort of – when do you feel like that started for Valour? And what do you have any sort of suggestions on what Valour can do to change that?
First of all, I think that this entire season, Rob Gale's even mentioned it himself in one or two post games this season. The effort's there. Everything is there. They should theoretically be scoring more. They should theoretically be winning more. They're just not. They're just not, because they're not getting the ball back in the back of the net. I was looking this morning. They've only scored, I think it's 2 goals the entire last 5 matches. Only 2 goals for Valour they've put in the net. There's only been, I think it was 3 or 4 games this entire season. They played 12 games now. This entire season, only 3 or 4 games out of those 12 games that they've actually scored 2 or more goals in that single match, or in a single match out of that span. So, I mean, they're just not clicking offensively. That was always the worry, I think, for Valour, and that's why when I did my season preview, I thought they could be good enough to make top 4, but I knew that they couldn't really contend for the title this year because there's just so many question marks up front. And I mean, is Richie the one? I've been flip-flopping all season. I mean, I really thought he wasn't the one. He had a really good bubble. He potted in something like 4 games in those, or 4 goals in 8 games there. So, I mean, theoretically, it's like, oh, okay, that's really good numbers. Come out of the bubble, and he's been really quiet and cold ever since that game he scored the brace in, which was match 7. The last 5 matches, he's been cold. They just can't find any offense. They're just, I don't know what it is. They get the ball in the box. It's not like they're not getting the ball up there. It's not like their forwards aren't getting chances, aren't getting shots. It's just frustrating. It's
very frustrating.
I don't even know what to even say. It's just a run of bad luck. That's all I can say. And you know what? In sports, you go through wins, you go through losses, you go through streaks more than anything. That's literally the best teams that win championships just have a lot of really good streaks. And right now, Valour is just on a really bad streak. But something's got to give. I almost feel like it's kind of like everything's kind of being balled up right now offensively. And eventually it's just going to grow and grow and grow. And finally it's going to pop. And they're going to hopefully start scoring more. But when I was looking at the season, I was looking up and down the roster, and I was like, how many of these guys realistically do we think can pot in 10-plus goals in a 28-game season in NCPL?
And therein lies the big issue, right?
Yeah. But this is also a problem across the league. Outside of the big 3, which is PFC, Cavalry, and Forge, every other team has every single forward or every single player, really, I believe, besides, I guess, technically now Akeem Garcia, that have never scored double digits in any league that they've played in professionally.
Right.
So take that as you will, whether that league is better or as good or worse than the CPL. There's just thin quality in terms of goal scorers, guys who can, on a consistent basis, score goals. We all know we're not going to get a Cristiano Ronaldo in here, but if we can get somebody that can score goals, someone that can pot in 10, 15 goals a season for any of these clubs. The next closest one outside of the big 3, there's 2 players. There's Akeem Garcia, who's colder than a cold steak, and then there's, on top of that, Easton Angaro, who I think could do it. He's done it. I think he got 11 or 10 in the first year. Last year, he only got 2. This year, I think he's got 3 or 4 goals. The potential's there. It's there. Outside of that, I question everybody else. I really do. It's like, no disrespect to them. I mean, especially a guy like Willie Macchio in Valour, who had scored in, I think it was Division 2 or Division 3 NCAA level, which is still a fairly good level.
And he's only got 1 goal this year.
But yeah, he's only got 1 goal this year, and you can't say he hasn't been getting the minutes, because he's been getting
the chances. He's been one-on-one with the keeper a couple of times this season, and ended up being stoned. So he's a bit snake bitten. But it's frustrating.
But this is an interesting year, because I was listening to another show about the CPL a couple days ago, and they brought up a really good point, and I was like, this actually does make sense if you look at the grand scheme of how the season's played out this year. But it's just such a defensive league this year.
The
really tactics
is.
have been super, super on point. Everyone's organized. All 8 clubs are organized. Nobody's loosey-goosey this season. And even like the goal scoring, I believe, is down this year as opposed to the last 2 seasons for sure, especially in 2019, which is probably the closest we can compare it to this season.
Well,
On top of that,
in a growing league, like this is a brand new league, there really isn't any, like, yeah, we can say we can compare it to 2019, but that isn't a pattern yet. Do you know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right. No, I agree.
2020 doesn't count, and you need at least 3 points to create a pattern, right? You have, but right now we really only have 2, so we've got dots. So we've got
Pretty
this
much,
line
yeah.
and this line. So
Yeah.
we don't really have, like, we can compare them just for, shits and giggles, as they say, but
Yeah.
like, it's not, you're not really, I don't feel like you're getting any farther ahead by comparing it to, so it's tough because, like you say, like, we were expecting certain things, but maybe that's just what the CPL is going to be now, is more of a defensive league. Maybe next year it'll be goals aplenty. We honestly have no idea. And it's going to constantly be so less consistent, so much less consistent than other leagues based on the regulations, because you have to play players of this age and Canadian players a certain amount of minutes and this, that, and the other thing. So look, like, young players are going to be rotating through these clubs looking for, their 15 minutes to be picked up by other leagues and whatnot. But I mean, look at Tyler Attardo.
Yeah.
Winnipeg's Tyler Attardo. That guy's having some success internationally now, and he did that by playing here in Winnipeg and doing well in Winnipeg. And yeah, it's sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just like, it's so frustrating because I want to compare it to something, but you can't compare it to the MLS, you can't compare it to the USL, you can't compare it to the EPL by any stretch. There's like the what is it, the NASL or whatever? Like, there's no real tangible comparison, and we're feeling this out as we go, and we're growing it. The easiest league to compare this league to is the CFL, right? Because the amount of teams, it's all Canadian. We're doing things a little differently. We're allowed 5 subs per game, not 3. Like, it's very different. So it's hard to get into people's heads. Like, this and the MLS are not apples to apples. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No. Yeah, and I agree with that. But and then going back to my point though, with I believe that this is probably, out of the leagues, at least for me that I follow, this is super defensive type football from like any other league that I follow. And I follow EPL. I dabble a little bit less now, but with the MLS in the past before CPL, Champions League, the other big 5 leagues in Europe. So those leagues are definitely, you can't compare them at all to the CPL. So CPL is a bit of a different animal, different beast. But the coaching is so much better this year than the last 2 years. The defensive play, everything's organized. And I was thinking about, like, over the course of this weekend, like, who are the best players in the CPL right now? And a lot of the players, I would say, are defenders. I mean, how many good center backs do we have right now? Center backs. We got Zador, we got Diddage, Plump. Every team's got like a
Romeo now.
Romero,
who replaced potentially the best center back in AJB.
Yeah. And Lucas McNaughton's having just a fantastic year. No one's talking about him. TMG, when he comes back, I think could be lights out for Pacific as well. So Daniel Crutzen, who has been injured for most of the season, and that guy's lights out. So, like, we have so many good center backs in this league, and even goalkeepers too. Like, I really think nobody talks about our goalkeepers, but they're underrated.
They are.
These guys are really good goalkeepers.
Dylan Powley is way, like, aside from Jonathan Sirois, who I think should undeniably be considered the best goaltender in the league. Arguments?
Right now, no.
Okay, so Jonathan Sirois, I think, best goaltender in the league. Second to him, Dylan Powley has been playing very, very well. He has not been getting the support from his teammates that Sirois has been enjoying. I feel like their defense isn't quite as strong. Their defense relies a little more on him. But I think that, like, yeah, the defensive side of the game in Canada here this year has been very good. To contrast that, like, there is no overwhelming power scorer in the league, including Marco Bustos, Jao Morelli, Babuli, like our own Austin Ricci, Easton Ongaro. Like, there is no power. Like, these guys are scoring goals. They've 5 and 4 goals, between them, whatever. But there's no real power goal scorer. Moses Dyer, his only 3 goals came on 3 penalty kicks, right? If you don't score on penalty kicks, there's a problem, right? Yeah. Like, if you get stopped on 1 out of 10, no big deal, But if you score 3 for 3, you should score 3 for 3. There's an expectation there. It should be a gimme goal. That's why people get so excited when the penalty's called, because it's a gimme goal 99% of the time, I would say, probably. But
but this league is such a weird league where it's like our goalie just keeps saving them. Like, I just was watching, like, Sirwa's got at least 1 stop I can remember.
He's only got the 1.
Ingham just got a stop. Yeah, Ingham got a stop. The last 2 seasons, I remember at least 2 goalies again getting stops and penalty kicks. So it's just weird. And it's like you can watch other leagues and it's like the goalies never touch it. Like the EPL, I can't remember the last time I've witnessed a goalkeeper stop a shot and a penalty kick in the EPL. So.
Okay, so the last couple of shows, I have been asserting that Austin Ricci would be a much better goal scorer if they would also play either William Akio or Jared Ulloa alongside him. But they keep starting Ricci without either of those other 2 guys, so you're not getting that speed, dangerous player where if Ricci doesn't have the shot, he can just lay it off. There's nobody else that the defense are worried about. They constantly know that Austin Ricci is the go-to guy. Who else is going to shoot aside from O'Heen from 30 yards out, right? So,
you're talking about like having 2 forwards up front? You're talking about having them on the wings with Ricci at center forward.
For example, the last game, it was, the forward, and then there was 2 guys just behind him. It was Gallardo and Fordyce, right? And they've done that twice now, where Ricci's out there with nobody really speedy. You got 2 guys that are very, good with the ball, great at playing balls through. But if Ricci's the only guy running for it, he's easily defended then.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the raw speed. He's very heads up, very good with the ball. If he can beat you to the ball, then you're in trouble. But you can cut out that ball very easily if only Austin Ricci is chasing it. If the options are Ricci and William Akio is going to beat you to that ball 9 times out of 10. Every defender in this league, he's fast. Jared Ulloa, he's going to beat the defender to the ball 9 times out of 10. If you have those 2 guys to be worried about, what's that?
Rea's been really fast this
yes,
season,
but he's generally playing more of a midfield winger, kind of like let's get down the side, cross the ball, he makes stuff happen kind of thing. He's one of those mix it up players, but he's not a guy you're going to play a ball behind a defender and get Rea to chase that down. That's generally not the position he's in. Akio and Ulloa, that's exactly what they're for. And then what that does is open up Ricci, because if it's Ricci 1-on-1 with a defender, his odds of getting a shot off or being in a place where he can receive the ball much better than him going in. And obviously two defenders are going to go in with him, right? One directly on him and one supporting defender. You're shutting yourself down by not opening up those other opportunities. That's what I've been saying. I don't know if you agree with me or if I'm just blowing smoke into this microphone and talking to myself or what, but like it drives me nuts. When we see the game sheet for tomorrow's match, first game back at home, by the way, FYI. So if we go to tomorrow's match and we see this starting lineup and it doesn't include either of those 2 speedy guys, or worse yet, what they do sometimes, or not in the last couple of games, but if they put Ulloa and Akio out there together to start the game and no Austin Ricci, then you got 2 speedy guys, both of which their finish isn't great. Ulloa likes to go down a lot, so him getting to the ball relies on him actually cleanly beating a defender. If there's any kind of contact on Ulloa, he's going to drop like a sack of potatoes. He's looking for that foul before he's looking for the ball, which I don't particularly care for, but that's his style, and that's that's the way he does it. But anyway, do you have any thoughts on what I'm saying here? Because I'm just sort of yelling into the microphone at this point. Does any of that make sense, or am I just crazy?
No, that makes sense, and I agree. I'm not a huge. I do see what they're doing by having him up there and kind of being the only forward. I'm not a huge fan of doing that. I do like having my favorite, like, kind of front would be a front three in my opinion. I'm an offensive guy though. I'm a huge Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool fan, as you can tell by my T-shirt. So they usually roll with the front three, and that's just exciting for me. But Valour, especially this season, I feel, and in the past, they'd like to do like that 4-2-3-1 formation. That seems a lot, and they have good wingers, but this season's been the best in terms of having wingers with speed, I think.
Yeah, because
2019.
But Bakera was very quick, and he's been playing a little bit of a winger sort of style. When Peña's out there, he pushes wings, even though he's generally a defender, but he usually pushes. You know, he's very good at getting up in the play and that kind of stuff. So you're right. I like our winger situation, but.
So yeah, I like our wingers. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing what a 4-3-3 would look like for a match and having our wingers higher up rather than having them run the whole pitch. And by the time they get to the end, they're going to be stopped because they're going to have two people on them because they literally just ran the whole pitch with the ball. Yeah. And that's
because the last two games we played, it was a 3-4-2-1 formation.
And I'm not too huge on having like two right behind the center forward or whatever, because especially the two you mentioned, Fordyce and Gallardo, they got skills, but let's face it, they're not the fastest guys out there. Okay, exactly. So they get closed down pretty fast.
But their ball skills, like they'll play, but they're great to play a ball through to somebody. But if the only guy you're playing it forward to is Austin Ricci, and the opponents know he's really the only shooting threat that we have, then obviously he's going to be very, very carefully marked, right? And we haven't had an opportunity where he's been just left alone by accident, like Marco Bustos was in that game against Pacific, where Federico Peña just absolutely lost him for no reason. They were down to 10 men, and still you got Marco Bustos unmarked at the back post. That's a mistake. That hasn't happened for Ricci yet. So.
And we don't make it hard enough, I feel, on the forwards, and or on the defenders of the opposing team. That's why we're not scoring. In my opinion, if I had to pick one, we take a lot of shots from outside the box, and it's like taking shots. It's like in hockey, taking shots from the blue line. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be stopped or blocked because you're shooting so far away. The goalkeepers have so much time to see it. I would like to see more, East-West Coast kind of passing kind of thing. It's like a hockey tournament to football. They kind of make the goalkeeper move
side to side, like
side to side. And
the net is 192 square feet. That is not a small target. Yeah. But if you don't take shots, like it doesn't matter how big the net is.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you take shots from far away and the goalie has 5 seconds to see it and see that it's literally just coming straight,
floating.
I can just get in that position. Yeah, it's not curving. You're not shooting across the body. And a lot of our shots, if it's within the box, it's like quick off the draw, but it's pretty much straight out of the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper just has to like gobble it up, and they're good to go.
Best chance we had. Did you watch? I'm assuming you watched the most recent Valour Edmonton game, but that towards the end of the game there, Moses Dyer rang one right. He had the goalie beat, and he railed it off the crossbar.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it was coming in from the left, right? Then he shot it. I think
from the goalie's right. Yeah, so from Valour's left side, just like the corner of the box, just inside the box, and it just curled it just around. It was James was the goalie, I believe, right? Yeah, and he got his hand up, and the ball just missed his hand. But had it been here, that's a goal. Here, crossbar. Yeah. But if you only have 3 shots a game, right? That's the problem. Is we're not, like you said, we're not making the defenders work. So or even the goalkeeper. I mean, we're just doing basic shots. I would like to see them do more shots across the box. But like it's been too easy for the opponent's defenders there to mark one guy. Or when we're on the break, we always got one guy speeds up, usually a winger, but Quero usually too, where he gets the ball and he's in by himself,
but then 3 guys close on him, and we have nobody else around him.
Right.
Because they're waiting all the way over here on the other side. It's like, well, how is he supposed to chip shot it, pass it over there when he's got 3 guys marking him?
It is extremely frustrating to watch too, because Valour typically these days have been controlling the play. The last game was 58% of possession. Right? We're controlling the play. But I felt, especially in that last game in Edmonton, I really felt they didn't push the pace. It was so slow. The build was so slow that it was just so easily predicted. Every move was telegraphed. Somebody would open up. This is the obvious pass. I'm going to pass it. So by the time the ball gets there, this guy's got no space. So then he has to find somewhere to go. And either he'll, dabble his way out, and then, then what? Then you're looking for support again. And then you're opening up, and this guy's the obvious only pass. So the ball goes there, and then it gets closed down. So, I really think the pace of the game needs to go faster for Valour. And I really think I like Baquero. He's very skilled. But if you go to the WPG.ca, my most recent article about that game in Edmonton kind of lays out one of my takeaways is that Andy Baquero needs to stop doing some of the things Andy Baquero does, which is carry the ball directly into a face of a defender, waiting for the defender to get right in his face so that he can play this cute little pass through a hole this big, and be like, oh, look at my skills. The guy has great skills. He doesn't have to show off, but he does need to make passes earlier, because guys are making runs, and if he doesn't play the ball through, they're offside. Then the run is dead, right? We're making our guys run around and waste a lot of energy and not playing the ball to them, right? Austin Ricci, Akio, Uloa. These guys are wasting a lot of energy making runs that the ball's not coming to them, and especially it's not coming in time. The ball's being played through late, causing offside issues, or just straight up giving the ball away. And those are the kind of things we have to change. And Baquero in particular is very guilty of that, chipping the ball into the middle of the field without looking, like that no-look chip, like side foot pass to no one. And then the ball's going the other way at pace. Right, so it's been a real problem.
Or there's even been some easy call passes where where they're going to pass. So if I know and at home, I'm sure the center back there is going to know. Yeah. And they're going to be, he's going to pass it here. I'm just going to move here and easily pick it up, turn it over, and take it the other way.
Yeah, you're giving the defenseman two steps to get 2 steps of a head start. Right, it's not pretty much. They got to move the pace, and players like Andy Baquero need to do less. He's trying to do too much. He's trying to change the game on his own, and there's 10 other guys on the field there that can help you play the ball off, make a run. He's very quick. Why doesn't he run more, right? Play the ball off, make a wall pass, move on. Then you've got space again and the ball, right? Whereas he's running himself into defenders running out of space on purpose so that he can, I think in his mind, he's draw the defenders to me, and that's going to open people up. But when you're surrounded by 3 defenders and there's only one place you can put the ball, guess what? There's already a defender headed to that spot. Yeah. So that's my observation. Obviously, armchair coaching, sitting in, it's been at my own home the last few games because they're away, but it's been rough.
Yeah, it's been rough. I do have confidence they'll turn it around, though. But if not, what do you think about a fan asked me this question? If Valour FC don't make the next step, and now let's say the next step is making top 4, do you think that this is it for Rob Gale?
I think if they somehow fall out of 4th place and don't make that, I feel like maybe Rob Gale is in jeopardy. I would like to see him stay because I see what his plan is. You see what he's doing, and they went from getting blown out year 1 to a fairly decent Island games to dominating the bubble to having a little bit of a slump. I really feel like if this slump turns into what the rest of the season becomes, then I think Rob Gale, his days may be numbered as head coach and general manager of the club. because he's serving the dual purpose, and that gives him a lot of leeway as far as who he signs and like how he does his business. He can just do it, but what that also does is it puts all of the focus through one person's set of eyes. And that's why most professional clubs have a general manager and a head coach. Like they have those two things, because it's two different perspectives that they can play off each other and see a little bit more of the big picture, versus, tunnel vision of one person going through it, going like, well, I really like him. He's a positive influence in the dressing room and this, that, and the other thing. And he's not really a liability on the field, so let's keep him. When, I'm not saying that that's what Gale's doing. I'm just saying that's an example of something that can happen with that tunnel vision. Whereas if you step back and you're like, well, there's these other players that if you fit them in would be much better on the field, and you're not going to lose too much in the whole chemistry side of things. So I don't know. Rob Gale has, if he finishes 5th, there might be some leniency there for sure. If somehow they end up in 7th or 8th, I think he's gone. And I don't want to see that happen. I really think that he has a vision for this team. He has a 5-year plan. It's been 2.25 seasons, let's call it, right? Yeah. So, we haven't really seen, and we also don't know what the rest of this league should look like. Again, it's year 3, which technically is year 2. Because last year's tournament was just so that there was actually a tournament. Yeah. To call something a CPL season, they had to do something. So I really, really I want to see what that 5 years gets us. That's my own personal opinion. But I really, I believe in Rob Gale. I believe in what he's doing. I believe what he's doing is improving. And I think that if you look at the last 5 games, it's unfair to judge the team on just those last 5 games, considering that first Edmonton game should have been a win. There, just some bad luck, some rough officiating this year, and not just against us, but just ruining the flow of play a lot this year with weird calls and letting certain stuff go and not letting other stuff go. It's been very inconsistent, which is hard to get rhythm going for anyone, let alone, a team that was dominating and da-da-da. So I don't know if I went on too far about that, but I want to see Rob Gale stay. Would you like to see him stay? Like, do you think he's having a positive effect? Or do you think, are you one of the people that say, like, if they don't finish at least 4th, he should be gone?
No, I think he should stay another year. I do like him personally. I like him, but professionally, I think he's done a good job. I think you can see the evolution of Valour through the 3 years. Year 1, he'll be the first to tell you in year 1 he got some of those moves wrong. It happens in sports. Everybody makes mistakes,
and it's the first year. It's a first year where, and you remember too. And again, the rules are very different as far as play time, who you can play, where they have to be from. Like, you're only allowed X number of international players. Your roster has to be made up of a certain number of Canadian players, certain number under the age of 23. It's not as easy as it sounds to just slap a team together and go out there. It just isn't. And attracting that kind of talent isn't easy either when you live in a place that is dead center of nowhere, Manitoba, right? So his challenge is way harder geographically, on top of the fact that this league is unproven. So how do you attract players to this league? And then how do you make them play in Winnipeg? And then, you know what I mean? There's a lot of challenges in front of this guy. And so I think anybody critical of Rob Gale really needs to take a step back and look at that.
Right. But at the same time, it is a results-driven business. And especially in Winnipeg, if you don't win, I'm sure you've been here long enough in Winnipeg to know if a team's not winning, you ain't getting anybody in the stands.
Yeah,
whether that's the Bombers
the city goes as the sports teams go. I get it.
Yeah.
Even when the Gold Eyes are slumping, you feel it around town. You're like, what is this attitude? And you find out, oh, the Gold Eyes are having a bad year, So it's like, oh, okay, all right. So our double A or like single A ball team, or I don't even know what league they're in, to be honest.
Third division or something. But and with Valour too, when it's a new league like this, we got to be winning, especially early, if we want to get consistent fans back up to. I remember going to that inaugural home game and it was 10,000 fans. I was like, my God, the potential here. But that's the thing, that there's potential everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's here, whether it's in Saskatoon, whether it's in Brandon, whether it's in Belleville, Ontario, there's potential everywhere. But you got to win, especially in a place like Canada or even the U.S. and these North American markets. If you're not a winner, no one's going to come out and support you. It's just how it is in North America.
And as sad as that is, it's true. Said, there are some exceptions to the rule. Toronto Maple Leafs, they fill the stands. They didn't win anything for. Well, it's still going on, not winning stuff in Toronto, but but they still fill the stands. But that's an anomaly. Like you said, like if you don't win, people aren't going to come out. So
that's like a European type thing, though, because Toronto's been around for almost like 100 years at this point. So it's like one of those old English clubs, like a Manchester United or Arsenal or something, where it's like they've been around for generations. They're going to have huge fans. Same with the Montreal Canadiens, but it's not always going to be like that for every other market. Those two are, like you said, anomalies. I remember when the Raptors were garbage. Nobody would go into Raptor games. I remember when the Blue Jays were garbage. I was there 2 years ago when they were garbage, and I remember going to literally walking into Rogers Center there, and there was nobody there for a game in like July.
The last time I was there, it was the Sky Dome.
Yeah. It pretty much. And trust me, it has not evolved since then. It still looks like it's been stuck in the 80s, 90s era. So, but and same thing like in Winnipeg here. Like the reason why we lost the Jets the first time is because they weren't winning and nobody was going.
Well, I mean, the other side of things is that Canada is very much a hockey market.
It is, yeah.
The CFL has been around for 100 years.
No, it does, yeah. Well, 50-some years, but the clubs are all pretty much 80 to 100 years.
Yeah, but look at the CFL. How hard has it been to grow the CFL?
Mm-hmm.
And the money that's involved there, and how hard has it been to grow? Because it's not hockey and it's in Canada. Right, and I like watching the Bombers. I love that, But when it comes down to it, if there's a Bomber game and a Jets game on the same day, which one are people tuning into?
Yeah,
right.
Usually it's the Jets, but I think that's also somewhat of an unfair point, because with the NHL, there's no other league that's better than the NHL, and there never will be. There never has been. Like I said, there is never going to be another league. So
right.
In Canada, you have the NHL. You see the very best in hockey. This is the league you're going to tune into. The CFL, I think the problem with the CFL and the CPL is running in the exact same situation, if not even worse. Because the CFL, your biggest competition to try and get fans is going to be the NFL. You will never be. Everybody already knows here.
The NFL is the greatest league of American football on the planet.
No matter how you sell it, I mean, that's just how it is. And in Canada, we just have this feeling sometimes, and I have it sometimes, other people talking to them that are Canadian have it, where we always feel we're just not as good as the Americans, even though that's not true. We have some Canadians that are number one in industries with other Americans. Look at someone like Drake, for example, the biggest, I wouldn't even say a hip hop artist, I'd say one of the biggest artists in the planet right now, because he's got his finger in everything and he's Canadian.
I mean, and not that I want to throw support out there for him, but Justin Bieber is one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. Jim Carrey's one of the biggest comedians. These are all Canadian guys, right? So William Shatner defined an entire genre of television through Star Trek. Canadian guy. So I take your point. Yes,
and I feel though, like, we compete and we always compare, and the CFL, their biggest fight is trying to compare to the NFL, and people are going to support the CFL because this is a minor league. And that's what I think the same problem is the CPL is having, is they're not even comparing to the MLS, because I've lived in the US. I know what the Americans think about the MLS. they think it's a minor league compared to Europe. They won't support the MLS.
Well,
it's
and
pretty much the same
that's
thing
my
here.
point. That goes back to my point. We got a bunch of Canadians. So first of all, it's hard because you're playing a sport that isn't hockey. Okay, so it's right, and then beyond that, it's not even football. So it's soccer, which is huge everywhere else, but given our climate and soccer hasn't been our primary sport in Canada, despite the success of the Canadian women, by the way. Congratulations to them because they're killing it. And Desiree Scott came home, native of Manitoba, successful with her Olympic medal. But anyway, the point is, like, there's all these things going against the CPL. And then on that level, right? So it's not hockey, it's not football, it's soccer, and it's in Canada. And the MLS, which has 3 Canadian teams, already isn't given the respect that I think it should be. I'm a CF Montreal fan. When the Impact became a team, I started supporting them because I'm also a Montreal Canadiens fan. I grew up on the East Coast. Nobody throw things at me. So I grew up on the East Coast. So, Montreal, geographically, closest team to us. When I was growing up, Patrick Waugh, when I was 10 years old, the Montreal won the Cup, right? That is a defining moment for a kid who likes a team to be like, yeah, this is my I'm locked in now. Like now I'm just stuck with this team forever. And so, like, I still have a soft spot for the Habs. I really do. Though I live in Winnipeg and I've never lived in an NHL market before, and now I am very much a Winnipeg fan, I still really, really like the Habs. And so I still like CF Montreal, and I love to support them. But again, when I go to talk about these teams, who's talking back? When I lived in Halifax and I would talk about CF Montreal, or at the time Montreal Impact, like there was me and like 6 people that cared, about this about the MLS at all. Forget they weren't even fans of Montreal necessarily, but just the MLS, like, who paid attention, right? Yeah. And that's a league that's been going since 1992. So, like, it's a thing. And
it is frustrating, and like I feel it in Winnipeg. Like I go to a Valour game, it's like, wow, 10,000 people at the inaugural game. It's not always like that, by the way, for folks that are hearing this. I'm just using it as an example. And then you go out in the streets, whatever, and you want to talk, soccer with somebody, and they only will talk European soccer. Oh, what's the MLS? No. CPL? No. It's like, then. And
you'll even run into the odd TFC fan, like some the odd random Toronto FC or even sometimes the Whitecaps fans here in Winnipeg, because we're kind of split like midway between.
We're in that region, yeah.
Yeah. So, but as soon as I start talking CF Montreal, they're like, "What? Who cares?"
Yeah.
It's like the people would rather talk LA Galaxy than any of the Canadian teams generally, and that's if they're willing to talk about the MLS at all. Like you said, the team I like is Man U. It's like, do you like Man U, or do you like the fact that you've heard about Man U because they're in all the media? Like,
or do you like the idea of Man United, or do you actually watch them? Do you have their kits? Do you support them?
Right? Like when I was a kid, it was all about Man U, but that was all I knew about. As I grew older, I became a big fan of Swansea City, who aren't even in the EPL anymore. They've been relegated. Now they're in the championship, which is the next level down. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, if I talk about Swansea, you get the odd person who's like, "Oh, I know Swansea."
Yeah, really rare.
Right? But like, soccer in Canada already has challenges being popular. So bringing this all the way back to where my point started is that there's all of these challenges ahead of even getting to Rob Gale, and can we get people specifically to come to Winnipeg? You have to convince people to come to Canada to play in a team that is in Canada that isn't even part of the MLS, or the NASL, or any of that. And then on top of that, you have to convince them to play in Winnipeg, which geographically is close to nothing. I've
never heard of Winnipeg ever.
Right. Who's winning what? Like, no, it's a city called Winnipeg. Oh, they win? What did they win? No, it's a city. Anyway. So like, there's a lot of challenges for Rob Gale that he's dealing very well with.
Yeah.
As a guy himself from England who had, he played at some pretty high level soccer. The guy gets it, but the challenges and the things that are in front of him, the obstacles he has to face are much higher just being in Winnipeg than being in Halifax or Pacific, who are, on the coast, easily accessible, And so I think we need to give Rob Gale the benefit of the doubt, because I think he's done very well with very few tools. That is what I'm getting back to.
Yeah, and I think other coaches have had it. You mentioned Halifax. I know from the past 2 years that apparently it's been really hard to get Canadians to come to Halifax, and it's why they've had so many international players. So they have their own problems. If you're a team like Hamilton, I mean, why do you think Hamilton's doing so good? They're less than 3 hours from Toronto, so already a big place to go to. They're one of those young up-and-coming Canadian cities that are on the rise right now, with all these different industries moving there. They have a pretty good stadium. They have an ownership that's willing to spend to the cap and beyond to put the team out there. They decorate their stadium so it looks like it's a Forge FC's home, not you're renting from the Hamilton Tiger Cats, like some teams that run out of a CFL stadium.
Valour FC does a very good job, I feel, including the Valour part of the game. But to your point, there is quite a bit of Bomber stuff, like just sort of all the big permanent displays are Bomber this, Bomber that. So yeah.
Have you been to the Hamilton Stadium?
I have not, but I've seen it obviously on TV.
It is where Winnipeg needs to be. If they want Valour FC to be taken serious and not to be the stepchild in the relationship, if you want to call it that, they have to include it more. I can go to the Valour Stadium right now or to IG Field and point out at most 5 Valour logos on my hand right now on any given day, whether it's a game day of Valour or not. Hamilton, the entire thing is orange, and that thing is not orange to begin with. It was black and gold up until 2019.
Right.
So I remember going, even the team shop, they decorated a team shop, man. You have to have a trip. I know I'm putting over Hamilton pretty hard, but you got to go to Tim Hortons Field because they do.
I take your point, because when you go to the people still call it Bomber Stadium. Do you know what I mean? You go to IG Field and it's the Bomber store still. It's not the Winnipeg Football Club store. It's Bomber store. And that's where you buy your Valour gear, is at the Bomber store. And you walk in and, like you said, everything's blue and gold. And there's this corner over here where you see some Valour stuff that's maroon and black. Yeah. And, so I take your point. Yes, that's a valid point.
The Valour gear gets literally 25%, not even 25% of the Valour or the Bomber store.
Yeah, it's like a fifth,
literally
maybe.
A corner.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. And it's just ever since, I get it in year 1, I get it last year, but you're coming into year 3. You've had a year and a half where no one's been at the stadium. Put a little bit more money in there invest, spruce it up, make it feel like this club isn't being rented or isn't renting the stadium.
Yeah. This isn't our Airbnb once a week,
Yeah, and I remember just casual fans that were just coming for one game in 2019. They went and they're just oh yeah, they liked the game, but they just said it felt weird because it just felt not real. It wouldn't feel like it was in an actual football stadium, football being European football rather than your gridiron football. But it just didn't feel right. It felt like you're at the Bomber Stadium, that they have so many hurdles that they got to overcome already, Valour. I feel like that's just a simple fix to kind of help it further along.
Yeah.
Because if Hamilton can do it, why can't Winnipeg do it?
If Hamilton can do it, why can't Winnipeg? Let's leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you, Curtis, for joining me. You are always welcome on the show. I greatly appreciate you. So thank you very much. If you want to, you're welcome to come back next week. We will be here. There's a couple of games between now and then, I believe, isn't there? Valour.
I think so. Canadian Championships.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then there's the first home game outside the bubble for Valour tomorrow night. Yeah. So next week we'll be talking about that, and as you said, the Canadian Championship stuff and all that. We didn't really get into the Olympics and how well the women did and all that, but congratulations to them for winning, and that's huge Love that. But like I said, we got to go. So let me throw it to the fact that we have all these social media things. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. We're all over those. Don't forget that you can follow our guest. He is also on all of those things. So Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, at AFC Curtis. So you can find him on all of that. His YouTube channel, new videos every week, I assume. And all that.
Almost
yes. Every week. There you go.
Every month.
Oh, there you go. Monthly. There you go. So follow him over there. Until then, you can also call us, the WPG Sports Line. Call or text 431-800-4555. You can email us, thelz@thewpg.ca. And other than that, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time in the LZ.